Okay, now we're going to do one example of solving a quadratic equation using the quadratic formula. But remember what I said initially, or in the last video explaining the quadratic formula. In order to solve a quadratic equation using the formula, it has to be in standard form, which means one side of the equal sign needs to equal 0. And since the n squared, 7n squared is positive, we're going to zero out the right side. So I'm going to subtract 22 on both sides, and I think I might have done that here. So here we have our A, our B, and our C, and just so that we remember what they are, A is 7, B is -8, C is -22. So we're going to get it set up in the quadratic formula. So remember the quadratic formula, the opposite of B plus and minus the square root of B. Notice I put the B in parentheses. Every time there's a variable, you should always put it in parentheses. You'll make fewer calculator errors. So B squared, subtract 4 times A times C. And remember what I said in the video describing the quadratic. This piece you should simplify first. So let's go ahead and do that now. I'll change the color. -8 squared is 64. Subtract, let's see. Oh, this was not very good. I did not bring the calculator out with me. So let's, whoops, get that out of the way. So -8 squared is 64. -4 times 7 times -22 is 616. You're going to simplify that further by adding those two things together. And I'm pretty sure I did that down here. Oh, this is not good. Whoops. Okay, so 64 plus 616 is 680. So we have the opposite of -8 is 8. Plus or minus the square root of 680 all over 14. Well, I'm going to simplify the 680 because we need this radical to be simplified. We do know that it's a positive number. Remember what I said about the discriminant? So there's going to be two possible answers. It's either 2 rational or 2 irrational. When I simplify this, 680 is the same as 4 times 170. Well, 170 is not a perfect square, so we know the 2x values will be irrational. The square root of 4 is 2, so a 2 comes out. And then what does 8, 2, and 14 all have in common? What does 8, 2, and 14 all have in common? They have a 2, so if we factor out a 2 from each of those, 8 divided 2 is 4, 2 divided 2 is 1, so that would be 1 root 170. And 14 divided 2 is 7. So let's go on down here and see what I have. Get this out of the way. Actually, I can delete that now. Oh, right there. So we have x is equal to 4 plus or minus root 170 all divided by 7. So remember what that means. That plus or minus sign, get all that out of the way. This plus or minus sign means x is equal to 4 subtract root 170 over 7. And it means that x is equal to 4 plus square root of 170 all over 7. If you put each of these values into a calculator, you're going to get a decimal value. But this is the exact value. These two x values are the exact answer. All right, that's it for this one.